Okay, so while I'm waiting for parts for the Defender, I'm just going to do the fuel pressure regulator real quick. And this is going to be a video showing you exactly how to do it. So just follow along. And for this video, I've actually just bought the reseal kit. So I haven't bought a completely new fuel pressure regulator. I've done both in the past, so I've swapped a few, and I've done the reseal as well. Well, I don't know. It's the same awkward job. So yeah, but I'll just show you. So we'll just start with taking off the fuel pressure regulator from the car. With the Defender, it's a lot easier than with the Discovery because there's a lot more room in the corner of the engine. So that's really nice, but it still is a really tight and awkward job. Okay, so here we have the engine, and down there, that thing is the fuel pressure regulator, and there are 3 fuel lines going there, and also one plug that plugs into, I think it's a fuel temperature sensor or something. So what we are going to have to do is disconnect those fuel lines, and you can see one connection there. So it's just a simple push button, that one, and then you pull it away, and then there's one line that goes from the, that line, the lower one, and that actually goes around and goes all the way here to a fuel cooler or heater, I don't actually know. And that connection, you have to push it a bit forward and then release it backwards and then pull it off. This top fuel line, you'll just have to disconnect it here. So I'm thinking that's a 14mm bolt. So just disconnect it there. To make life easier, just remove this engine hook. So there's a hook to lift the engine up, and you can take that hook off with 2 10mm bolts, and then the fuel pressure regulator itself is connected with 3 10mm bolts to the engine block. So that's basically it. So I'll take you through it step by step. Okay, so first we're taking this fuel line off. It's a bit hidden down below here, but I'm just going to push the line forwards, and then there's a little plastic cap, and you push that backwards, and then you can pull the line off. So let's see if we can do it like this. Yep, there we have that. And there's no pressure on this one. Okay, there we have the next one. So exactly in focus. That's the next one. So we'll just pull the sensor plug off first. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see it there. Yeah, access is really limited, so I'll take the hooks off immediately. Okay, so now we may be able to reach, we can reach in a bit better, and then we can hopefully pull off the plug. Ugh. There we go. And okay, so what I did to remove this plug, there is a small little clip that's on this plug, and I had to push it from the underside and I couldn't reach around, so I used a flat blade screwdriver to poke this away and off the plug. So now I can click it back on, and when I refit it, it'll be fully functioning again. Just like that. So now we'll try and do this fuel line. Let's see, where are we there? And then we'll loosen the other one with the 14mm wrench. Okay. Let's see if we can. Yep, that's that off. And then we'll do the top one. And that's that. Okay, so now we've got all the fuel lines removed that we need to remove. And now it's time to take off the 3 bolts that hold this one onto the engine block. And there are 2 up top, which are very visible. And they're supposed to be 10mm all together. But one of them is a 13 or 12, so someone has already been here. And then on the bottom we have a 10mm as well, and that's really hard to reach. So we'll do as we humans do, easy ones first. Second one. And now the third one. Some say it's easier to reach it from the bottom of the engine, so if you lie under it, but I usually just use some extensions, and it's gonna be impossible to show you from any angle where that bolt is. So I'm just going to show you what tools I'm using, because I use some extensions and then we'll get the job done. We might get away with this, and if not, then I have some more. And there we have it. That's the whole fuel pressure regulator unit. Okay, so here we have the whole unit. I'll just show you the bolt pattern. So we had a few bolts stuck in here, just like that. and it's mounted to the engine just like this. So that's the top and that's the bottom. And here you can see that's the hard to reach bolt, and I use some extensions to get it out. You just have to loosen it, and then it's finger loose basically, so then you can spin it out using the extension if you disconnect the ratchet. Here's a temp sensor, I think, and then here we have 1, 2 and 3 lines. That's the third line. And what we're going to do now is I'll show you all the gaskets. This gasket was mounted to this car, so this gasket was fitted to the car, and I took it off, and now we can compare this gasket to the new gaskets, because I got 2 gaskets here. This was the gasket that was fitted, and then I got 2 gaskets with it. And one gasket is for the 10p engine and one is for the 15p engine. So you just have to compare them with each other. And as you can see, these two look very much the same. So we'll just take that one out. And the difference is that that hole is a bit bigger on the earlier one. I don't know why, but yeah. So we'll put a new gasket on, throw this one away. And then we also got a bunch of small rubber O-rings. And these rubbers, the O-rings, are used to seal the fuel lines. So we'll have to take these out, and there will be a seal inside of them. And we are swapping those out for those new rings. Then we also have, it's easiest to show you here, in the middle of the engine there's a small hole, and inside of that there is a gasket, and behind that is actually a little filter. And that filter, you must be very careful not to drop it, because you don't get a new one in this kit. But you take the O-ring out, and then the filter also drops out. We'll replace that too. We must not forget, we loosened one of the fuel pipe that was stuck in here, so that fuel line is still in the engine, and there's also an O-ring that needs to be replaced with one of these. So let's do that now, shall we? And there's the O-ring I was talking about. So we have one on each of the 3 fuel lines. Oh, so I got this one out, and there was no O-ring on it, but I can see that it's still inside of here. So we'll have to make sure to take that one out. But no. We got it out. Yep. And then we have a membrane here, and it's fitted with a C-clip. So we'll use our clip extractor tool and take that out, and then we'll take the membrane out and replace it with a brand new one. Here I have my C-clip plier, and it'll just grab onto these. That's that out. And then we'll pull the old membrane out. And that's stuck in there very tightly because there is a rubber seal that seals this. There we have it. So we'll just clean up these surfaces a bit and then pop the new one in. Here we have the new part and we'll just stick it in there. It has to pop into place because of that little seal at the end. It has to go into that small little hole. So I had to use my vise to apply enough pressure, but now it's in place and it's not completely stuck. So now we'll put the C-clip back in. And when you're doing these C-clips, you always have to make sure that they're in correctly. So this isn't. And just push it down so it ends up back into the groove. Just like that. So that's the membrane done. And now we can do the seals on the fuel lines. First one on. Second one on, and then we'll have to do the one on the car and also this one for the filter. So the one on the engine itself, you put this filter back into the hole, back in place, and make sure it doesn't fall out again. And then you put this little O-ring in and it'll seal and keep the little filter secured inside. And then we have this loose fuel line, and as you can see there we have a old seal, so we'll just pull that off and then we'll put a new one on. So now we'll have to put the fuel lines back in. We have this short one and we have this longer one. It's the short one on the top and the long one on the bottom. Remember, tighten them as best as we can. There we go. So now it's basically just a matter of putting all the bolts back in on the engine and using the new seal to seal it all up. And unfortunately, it's very hard to film this because it's so tight and yeah, it's just limited space, and it's hard to get a good camera angle where you can see everything I do. So I'll just have to explain it. It really isn't a hard task. It's just it's a bit hard to reach everything. So I've got the new gasket on together with the lower bolt, and now we'll put it all in together and try to try to tighten that lower bolt by hand first, so we get that in, and then we can continue and after that we can continue tightening it with the tools. And then we'll use the extension to get to it. Let's see, and tighten it even further. And just don't tighten it too much, because you want to see where you have the gasket, and then align the other bolts as well. Now we can start tightening everything back together. Okay, and do this gradually. So don't over tighten one at once. Just tighten everything slowly, and that's to get an even seal all around. And the torque spec for these bolts is good enough. Just torque them so they're good enough. And I did this job on a disco last summer on the Td5, and it still leaked after I did it. So I took everything off, and then I used some liquid gasket in between because I had ordered a completely new part with new seals and everything, and it still leaked. So I used a liquid gasket and put it in between all the seals and the big gasket, and that worked wonders. It hasn't leaked since. Let's see, click, good enough. Yes. Oh, yeah, good enough. Good enough, yep. Okay, now we're ready to put this fuel line back on again. And I click it in first, so I get a good seal, and then I turn it with the other hand while applying pressure with my right hand. And then let's see, we'll just tighten this. Let's see, these torque wrenches are a bit harder, but okay, a little more. Yep, good enough. Perfect. Okay, and now it's just a matter of connecting the long and loose one to the fuel. I think it's a cooler, but I don't know. There. And then we have one line that goes all the way to the fuel pressure regulator, and that's clicked on. And let's not forget this temp sensor. There we go. That's job done. That's everything. So disconnect the fuel lines and the heater plug. Then loosen the 3 bolts for the whole unit to come out. Then swap all the seals on the fuel lines and swap the seal for the little filter that's in the block. Then take the C-clip off and replace the membrane, and then put it all back together using the correct gasket. So if you have a 10p engine, use that gasket. If you have a 15p, use that gasket. And you can always use the old one to compare to the new one. And that's basically it. So I'm thinking that if I don't film this, it's about a 30-minute job on a Defender, and on a Disco it's about an hour. So good luck with that. I hope it will be going as smoothly as this went for you. There are other videos on YouTube too, so if you want to see one where the engine is out of the car, it's available too, not by me but by someone else. Yeah, and if you have any questions about this or anything else or any suggestions, please leave them down below. Leave some comments about whatever, and we'll see you in the next video.